Hey, Titans and Titan families. I know, once again, this is a challenging time for all of us as parents, educators, and students. And I know many of you are filling out the survey to indicate your preference to either return to in-person instruction or continue with distance learning or potentially transfer to Pacific View Academy. Right now, we've got over 50% of the surveys completed, and we do need 100% of you to submit your preference here in the coming week. I know that for some of you, it's just been a little bit of a challenge to access, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we can support you in completing the survey. And for many others, including myself, it's a challenge for what is it that we want to do for our children. So I'm going to read through some of the questions that were submitted over the course of the last week, and I hope some of this provides some guidance. I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm unable to answer every question, certainly to your satisfaction as well as to my own. And as I gain more information, I definitely want to pass it on to you to help you make the most informed decision that's in your child's best interest. So the first question we received was regarding 7th period clinical practicum class, and this is for students in the patient care pathway. Right now, we're still working with legal guidance in terms of our students being able to go out to sites to complete the requirements of the course. Once we hear back, if we get confirmation for that, then we'll have to begin working with those individual sites to see if they're willing to permit our students to be present on their facilities. The next question that we received was if we return to in-person learning, will we still be physically turning things in, as in handing in worksheets, homeworks that is not digital? The concern goes on to elaborate about the survival time for the virus on paper and preferably feeling more comfortable with items being submitted electronically. Right now, we're anticipating that our teachers, many of them, most of them at the secondary level, will be delivering in-person instruction as well as distance learning at the same time. And in order to do so, we need Google Classroom to be the primary platform that we deliver instruction. So I think that all being said, that paper will be at an extreme minimum if it at all utilized. There will be some physical materials that we'll continue to distribute, just as we are now in full distance learning, that will support labs and projects for students to complete at home. The next question was, the individual had some curiosity as to the possibility of siblings being allowed to have the same shift. In this case, the children have two different last names. And so with the AM or PM shift, right, A through L last names are AM, and M through Z are assigned to the PM. What I would encourage you to do is confirm with the school site, in this case ours, give us a call, and make sure that we have within our student information system the siblings tagged as siblings. Because what we've done is we've gone through and associated siblings into the same session. And you might want to just confirm that for yours. Next question is regarding transportation. And again, I know this is going to be a big decision maker for many of us, and that is transportation available or not? And unfortunately, transportation is not available. And so we are dependent upon families, students transporting themselves if they have a driver's license, families transporting their children, or students walking or riding their bikes to school. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we require of our students that are going to provide their own transportation to and from school. Next question came from an individual who completed the initial survey. Again, I hope that's not too much of a confusion out there. There was a survey about a month ago that many of us completed. And now they're asking, now with what is being offered, we might want to change our mind. So initially they responded desire to attend in person. And their question is, will there be a final time to make their decision? And yes, the final date for that is November 6th. Okay, so a week from Monday, a week from Friday, we need for all surveys to be completed and for families to indicate their preference for either their children to return to in-person or for distance learning. We cannot move forward with building a master schedule, determining what teachers and courses are available until we know 100% of the family preferences. So please get those in. Again, that's going to be a week from Friday on November 6th. And I'm going to follow up with some support as to how to access and how to complete the survey. Next question is, if my child decides to stay with distance learning, are they still allowed to stay in sports or participate in sports? So it doesn't matter if your child attends Pacific View Academy, chooses distance learning, or attends Nipomo High School for in-person instruction. They absolutely can play sports as long as they meet the academic eligibility criteria as well as the physical clearance requirements. So again, that's not going to be a barrier for any of our students regardless of choice. An additional question was, will all ag classes be offered through distance learning? And we're hopeful that within the next week that staffing is confirmed and that all of our family surveys are completed. And at that time, we can begin to develop the master schedule for the spring semester. I remain optimistic that we will be able to offer all courses for both in-person learning as well as distance learning. That is our goal. Your students are assigned to these teachers. I'm hopeful that we'll continue to have them with the same teachers, but we won't know more information on that until we confirm staffing as well as have each of your surveys completed. Next question is, who do we let know that our kids won't be returning back to school and they want to continue through distance learning? Again, if you have been unable to complete the Parent Square survey, and I think there's been several reminders that have gone out, but some people are having a challenging time navigating the tool in order to indicate their preference, reach out to us at the school. We can record your preference for you. However, please understand that if you don't complete the Parent Square survey, you're probably going to continue to receive calls and text messages and reminders to complete it. Unfortunately, we can't update Parent Square for you. And so I want you to acknowledge that is going to be the case. Another follow-up question that we had, or question for inquiry, is that I have heard that students may or may not have the same teachers. How and when will we know this? As I stated earlier, until all the surveys are completed by that due date of November 6th, and until we have staffing confirmed, which we are hoping will be by the end of next week as well, that we will be able to confirm courses and teachers and student schedules. It'll take some time in order for us to get those schedules confirmed. But again, we remain optimistic that we'll be able to have students taking the courses they're currently enrolled in. Next question came from a staff member regarding parents asking if they're how to access the form. Again, I encourage you to attempt to access it through Parent Square. Otherwise, you can reach out to us at the school. The next question is that our last name starts with A through L, which would be the morning session. Is there any way my child can have the afternoon session due to their after-school activities? And then they elaborate how the challenge of being in the AM session and then having to return later for athletics after school. And with my own child, I understand the challenges that this presents in order to provide the transportation, get them to and from school, and in this case, twice in the same day. At this time, we all need to anticipate that AM or PM are assigned and fixed. Unfortunately, there is no flexibility. As much as we may desire, we cannot accommodate for personal preference. And we need to adhere to this in order to maintain balanced class sizes. And I'll elaborate a little bit more about, thinking forward into the coming months. Hopefully things continue to improve, or if things regress, we need to be able to pivot one way or the other. Next question asks, if my child chooses to stay with distance learning, will they have to stay on the alphabet schedule for class times, or would they choose AM or PM that does not correspond with their last name? So even with distance learning, class size is going to be important. And so we are assigning students, again, last names A through L, to AM, whether they choose in-person or distance learning. Likewise, if the last names are M through Z and they're in person, they'll be afternoons, or if they're distance learning, they'll be afternoons. Again, this is affording us the future ability to be able to more quickly navigate with the assumption that things will continue to improve in the county. Next question was regarding the back gate on Mala, if it will be accessible for students who walk, and absolutely. So the county does not want students walking along Thompson. We don't feel it's a safe, there's no continuous walkway that's accessible for our students. Many drivers are obviously going at a higher rate of speed, and so please utilize the Mala gate, whether you drop your child off, which if you're dropping them off in a vehicle, please just drive onto campus. I don't think you'll experience the traffic and the volume of vehicles that you may have in prior years. But if you're walking down Mala and you're going to enter in the back gate, please understand that we ask that students arrive no earlier than 10 minutes prior to their first class. This will help us minimize any large potential gatherings and afford us the opportunity to maintain social distance between students. The next question is, what if our child does not like being on the in-person schedule after a few weeks, and can we switch back to distance learning? Again, as a district, we are asking families to make a commitment for the remainder of the school year, all the way through until June. As I stated earlier, the balancing of classes supports a stronger learning environment. So to have huge discrepancies between a session, whether it's in-person or distance learning, is a struggle. And once again, our ability to hopefully adjust as things improve throughout the county is going to be afforded only if we have those balanced class sizes. So if it's too disproportionate, we're not going to be able to make those adjustments without completely disrupting the master schedule once again. The next question is asking if for in-person instruction, will the students be changing classes, or will they start in one class with the teachers going to them? If students switch classes, will there be enough time to disinfect the classes during the short passing period? So 2 parts of the question. The first one is that students will be changing classrooms. They'll go from their first period to their third period to their fifth period on the cardinal schedule day. And on the black schedule day, or most Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're going to periods 2, 4, and 6. So they will be changing physical classrooms. We have structured the seating in a manner that allows us to disinfect prior to the students entering. And so the follow-up question regarding sufficient time for disinfecting, we have increased our passing periods from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. And this will allow for all of the classrooms to be disinfected prior to the next group of students coming in. The next question is clarifying the hours for the half-day hybrid and whether where are the days Monday through Thursday with the Friday online. So Friday will still at this time continue to be the advisory class starting at 9 a.m. with asynchronous afterwards. And there will be no in-person instruction during that day. So students will not be coming to campus on that day when we return to in-person instruction in January. Classes will start at 7. The current schedule that's being proposed would have classes starting at 7:55. Again, this would be for in-person as well as distance learners, and they would be 55-minute classes, again with 10 minutes of passing in between. So if students are in the AM session, would start at 7:55, and they will conclude at 10:50. And there will be 70 minutes between the AM session and the PM session. Again, this is going to support us in being able to disinfect and do a thorough cleaning across campus, as well as afford staff an opportunity for lunch. So the afternoon session, the PM session, again, for both in-person as well as distance learners, would start at noon and would conclude at 2:55, once again with 10-minute passing periods in between. The follow-up question on that was regarding sports and when practices would be held. So if we adhere to this schedule with the PM session concluding at 2:55, I would anticipate sports would probably start around 3:30, potentially 3:15. We do need to avoid the students that are exiting in-person instruction while students are arriving onto campus for athletic purposes, and minimize the likelihood of any large gatherings. So we'll be clarifying that for you as we move forward. And I think that concludes the questions that were submitted thus far. Again, please do not hesitate to reach out. We are going to answer all your questions as best we can. I know that this is an incredibly challenging, anxiety-causing time. I think we all felt this stress back in July, August, prior to the school year starting. We've gotten to a degree of comfort, if you will, where we currently are, and now we're preparing for another transition for what January is going to look like. And that's going to be a transition whether you choose in person or even if you continue with distance learning, because the schedule is going to change. I hope that the information we're providing for you is helping you to make a better informed decision. Once again, I apologize that I cannot answer every question thoroughly, and some of the details were unavailable or we're unable to provide for you at this time. I thank you for your patience, I thank you for your understanding, and I thank you for your support for not only your own children, but our staff as well. And together we will get through this. And once again, thank you.